Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. Our speaker today is Meagan Carlo. Meagan is a certified sustainable landscape designer, certified by Cornell. She's also a certified permaculture designer by the Central Rocky Mountain Permaculture Institute. It's one of the oldest permaculture institutes in North America, and it's the host of the longest running permaculture design courses in America, North America, even. So welcome, Meagan. Take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a discussion on sustainable landscaping for a resource-abundant future. To begin, I want to briefly mention that if you are ever in the Roaring Fork Valley in the Rocky Mountains, I highly recommend visiting the Central Rocky Mountain Permaculture Institute, or CRMP, as we call it. The owner and designer, Jerome Osentowski, is an actual wizard. He's been practicing permaculture for over 40 years and has designed and built multiple greenhouses on a steep mountainside, including a tropical climate greenhouse lovingly called Phoenix and a Mediterranean climate greenhouse lovingly called Mana. CRMP is a sanctuary filled with natural resources, and there really is no place like it in the United States, though I hope and believe there will be many places like it in the future. And today I will be discussing how local economies can sustain local communities, with a focus on two of our most important resources, water and food. I would love to discuss shelter and energy, but as well, but I simply won't have time to focus on those resources today. So what is permaculture? Before we dive into water and food, I want to briefly describe what permaculture is for those who don't know. I'm also wondering how many people have heard of permaculture or practice. Okay, great. All right. Not as many people as I would have thought. Okay, well, I'll quickly go over a few important ideas and practices that guide permaculture designers. Several permaculture teachers have provided definitions since the 1978 conception of permaculture by Bill Mollison, rest in peace, and David Holmgren in Australia. My favorite definition comes from my teacher, Jerome Osentowski, which is the second on this slide. Permaculture is a design science and a problem-solving methodology. In designing new systems, we endeavor to emulate the natural world and work with, rather than against, those patterns to create rich human habitats that also sustain and regenerate the rest of the natural world. Permaculture is a subject that encompasses ecology, agriculture, aquaculture, horticulture, botany, hydrology, geology, herbology, entomology, zoology, chemistry, and even sociology and politics. Personally, I have considered nearly all of these fields as a profession. So when I first learned about permaculture a decade ago, I was hooked. I haven't found my own definition yet, but I know I would make a comparison with art. And in the same sense that everyone has a right to art, and there are multiple pathways to success, everyone has a right to permaculture. And permaculture design requires that we live by these three ethics: earth care, people care, and fair share. These ethics are based on the idea that every human being, and furthermore, every being on Earth, has a right to land or habitat, to access water, grow food, to build shelter, and to harvest energy. It is a human responsibility to create these conditions for all beings to thrive by consequence of the degradation and destruction we have caused. It seems to me that permaculturists are some of the most optimistic people in the fields of environmental studies because we wholeheartedly believe that we can create solutions to the planetary problems that we have caused. An important step we must take is moving toward a circular economy, one that focuses on zero waste and mutual aid. The economic philosophy and framework of natural capital must guide our decisions and actions. Natural capital through the lens of permaculture means designing for a circular economy, one that focuses on these 8 forms of capital. As opposed to simply financial in our current system. And how would this look in daily life? For example, an abundant fruit harvest becomes jam to trade with a friend for eggs. Or your food waste becomes my compost material. Or the old tires that a neighbor might consider to be waste can become your material to build an earthship. Permaculturists have adopted a concept from Buddhist philosophy that emphasizes earning a living in a way that does not cause harm to oneself or others, and furthermore advocates for the design of regenerative livelihoods that align with nature. For example, a permaculture farm can offer an abundance of resources and sometimes too much to manage. And say we have too many herbs to harvest and dry within a harvest window. An herbalist could be invited in to help with the work and in return take materials to create their own products, like tinctures and salves. Or say a new farmer or gardener needs space to cultivate their produce, and you have that space to rent or offer in exchange for produce. There are countless ways that the concept of right livelihood can make us successful and provide us abundant resources when we get creative. My teacher, Jerome, is working on a book called The Perennial Economy that will provide insight as to how right livelihood programs at Crimpy are creating a new economic system. There are 12 principles to guide our designs and actions in permaculture, and today I will mention a handful of these as we discuss our true needs. So with these ethics and principles in mind, let's focus on just a few small and slow solutions that anyone can implement in their environment to design a rich, earthly habitat. So everything is a resource and everything has a need. This is vital to every being on Earth, including ourselves. We all have a function here, just like a tree or a bee. Designing for a circular economy requires creativity, a quality humans are abundant in. Any system will fail, not due to a lack of intelligence, but rather a lack of good design. And conventional agriculture is severely lacking in good design. Our water systems, our housing systems, and our energy systems are all severely lacking in good design as well. These are not systems we can change overnight, but we absolutely can change these systems with thoughtful design within a human lifetime. So sustainable landscaping for a resource-abundant future. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm acknowledging that humans have greatly depleted Earth's natural resources, and we have highly localized them. So many people don't have ready access to life's necessities, like clean water, food, and healthy living spaces. Water and food are the resources that I will focus on today. Thankfully, we are all living in a place with readily available fresh water. Just seeps and springs galore in our region. And water can be considered a monumental natural capital for our local economy in the coming decades, particularly if we adopt better water harvesting methods in agriculture and at home, which I will discuss. A tremendous step we could take towards a resource-abundant future would be to redesign our water use and harvesting practices. From the Colorado River to the Aral Sea, water use by conventional agriculture is terribly unsustainable. Global irrigated farmland accounts for nearly 85% of consumptive freshwater use. Consumptive meaning clean and ready to access and consume. And of that 85%, it is estimated that 60% of water used in agricultural irrigation is wasted due to poor design. So here are a couple of studies reflecting poor design and the lack of human understanding regarding our water systems. Now, many studies exist in regards to large water bodies such as Great Salt Lake in Utah or Lake Mead in Nevada, but far fewer studies exist regarding smaller, although equally essential water bodies around the planet, like our local waterways here in Allegheny County. A unique study of its kind, summer stream flow deficits from regenerating Douglas fir forests in the Western Cascades, describes how evapotranspiration and lack of topsoil in young, frequently clear-cut forests yield as much as 50% lower summer stream flow than old-growth forests. This is an example of both poor design and lack of understanding about our water systems. Another study from the UK, the importance of small water bodies for biodiversity and ecosystem services, implications for policymakers, describes our very limited understanding of the functionality and significance of smaller bodies of water, such as in our local ecosystem, and the necessity to educate ourselves about these waterways. Permaculturists study nature in order to replicate the systems that provide us the best yields of natural resources, including water. And most often, permaculturists are simply adopting agricultural practices from cultures around the world, and often indigenous ones. So we as permaculturists do our best to recognize that sometimes we don't know best. And often the person beside us might know better. And our ancestors are often those people too. From sustainable water use and harvesting practices like clay pots dug into garden beds, to hugelkultur, to swales, these are all ancient practices that can help modern day local communities create more local resources. So our water system designs should not only include sustainable utilization of water, but also practical harvesting and storage methods, such as in soil and in catchment systems. Permaculturists have a saying about efficient water use: slow it down and spread it out, meaning slow the flow and spread the distribution. A bare landscape acts as a drain and cannot harvest water, whereas a landscape with plenty of vegetation and earthworks can act as a net to enhance both ground and surface water resources. Building topsoil is an excellent place to start conserving water. The average soil organic matter content on a conventional farm, such as an alfalfa monocrop in Arizona, is roughly 1 to 3%. Peter Bain of the Permaculture Institute of North America says, if your soil organic matter averages 2.5%, you have very little resilience to flood or drought. But if it is 7 to 8%, you can handle most rain and drought events, even in a disturbed climate. These numbers reflect the necessity for a healthy quantity of topsoil. Within permaculture farms like Peter Bain's and Jerome Osentowski's, the percentage of soil organic matter hovers around 8 to 12%. This translates to greater water and mineral holding capacity, healthier plants, and a more resilient ecosystem. A variety of methods can be effective in conserving water, from office parks to households to conventional farms. Rooftop and gutter catchment systems can be retrofitted to nearly every man-made structure on Earth. This is a significant portion of surface area around the world from which we could be supplementing our water systems rather than draining them. IBC tanks, strategically placed in higher locations within gardens, reduce or eliminate the need to pump water. Gray water systems, from buckets in the kitchen sink to rerouting shower drains, offer another efficient alternative for watering gardens. Strategically placed ponds and thoughtfully designed swales can eliminate human labor to water gardens altogether. Keyline design, first explained by P.A. Yeomans, involves digging channels on contour of a slope in order to harvest water for a row of plantings. And the dug soil is placed downslope from the channel, and the plants are placed within the channel. So as water and materials move downhill, they collect in the channels and fortify the plants and soil. In looking to address the shrinking summer stream flow in the Pacific Northwest, permaculture designers Tao Orion and Abel Kloster received a design contest prize of $5,000 from the Permaculture Institute of North America in order to build a strategically important and multifunctional pond at their permaculture site. This team recognized that building a multifunctional pond would be an essential earthwork for the local ecosystem to support rehydration of their on-site catchment system, particularly during the dry season. According to the designers, the new pond has increased water retention and extended stream flow later into the dry season, while improving access to the site's managed forest tracts. I'm sure there will be further case studies regarding their work in the future. Brad Lancaster is a permaculture designer who is deeply passionate about water harvesting practices. He resides in the arid climate of Tucson, Arizona, where water is in short supply. With his home and site practices, he has reduced his household municipal water use from the average 82 gallons per day in Tucson to his current 20 gallons per day. I highly recommend his books, Rainwater Harvesting for Drylands and Beyond. One final notable water harvesting practice I want to mention are the ice stupas, first designed in the Ladakh region of northern India by Sonam Wangchuck. These ice formations are intended to fortify and in some instances replace the glacial reservoirs of the Himalayas and to help sustain the agriculture of the Ladakh people. Ice stupas function by using gravity to move and pressurize water into pipes that force the water to the pipe's end and out like a fountain. The water droplets freeze upon contact with the air and form these ice stupas. These formations are a magnificent example of human ingenuity and creative problem solving. And without our ancestor water, we would not have food. The wonderful world of food. If you can't tell, I like to eat. So let's talk about some of the wonderful foods that we can grow more easily with higher yields and greater nutrient values thanks to our sustainable water practices. I personally think everyone has a green thumb, as past generations have called it. And it's truly a matter of finding the unique plant relationships that work for each person. Just like human relationships, there will be plant relationships that work for each individual. And it can be very fun to explore those relationships, especially in a well-designed garden. Whether the challenge is water distribution and retention, lack of nutrients, or pest problems, These maintenance issues are most often issues of design. I wish I had time to discuss human and animal relationships in the garden and farm settings. But of course, these relationships are vital to a healthy garden system as well, because without their waste, our soils would be severely lacking in nutrients. But right now, I will focus on human and plant relationships. Okay, so the vast majority of the human population consume less than 0.1% of edible plants on Earth. That amounts to roughly 200 plants versus the 300,000 plants we could be consuming. Rice, corn, wheat, and potato, just a handful of species, provide over 50% of our diets. Of those 200 plants, the majority of those are annuals. And annuals require far more work and water to cultivate and harvest when compared with the thousands of perennial foods we could be eating. From planting to harvest, perennials cause far less disruption to the soil environment. They can utilize less water than the life cycle of annual plants, and they create greater habitat for other beings that we want around the garden, like predatory insects and fungi. A few examples of perennials we find in the average grocery store include asparagus, kale, rhubarb, garlic, and most fruits. However, the world of herbaceous perennials is so much more vast than that, and than what we can find in a grocery store. As our food systems become less and less reliable and more expensive to maintain, it is in our best interest to expand our palates and to rediscover foods that have been eaten for centuries before our conventional farming system came into play. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of edible native plants that were eaten for centuries by native peoples. Sochan is the most popular example. Has anybody heard of Sochan? Native peoples ate the leaves, stems, and flowers of this herbaceous perennial, which we now utilize most often in wildflower gardens. It is not only an excellent plant for pollinators, but also a great addition to salads, soups, stews, sauces, and casseroles. Wild strawberry grows much more vigorously and offers more habitat and food to local ecosystems than the hybrid species we typically find in grocery stores. The harvesting process can be a little bit more tedious, however. Fiddleheads are the young shoots of ostrich fern, and they taste a bit like asparagus and spinach, and they cannot be eaten raw. They must be eaten cooked. Nodding onions are quite a small but equally delicious example of the varieties of onions that we could be finding in a supermarket. There are several edible species of elderflowers as well, and the fruits are edible when cooked. Most people enjoy elderberry syrup, as it is very high in vitamin C. The flowers are edible as well, raw or cooked, and they are delicious when battered tempura style. Pawpaws are a popular example of a native fruit. Some people call them custard apples due to their texture and flavor. It is an understory tree that can be grown in yards with limited space. Hazelnuts can be grown in small gardens too, plus they're easy to harvest from on the ground and can be heavily pruned if they ever grow too large. Some edible plants are growing in millions of backyards around the US as ornamental plants, such as hostas and lilacs. Hosta shoots can be eaten raw or cooked, and they taste very similar to asparagus. Lilac flowers can be eaten raw and are delicious when battered and cooked like elderflowers. And then there are some plants that have taken over portions of our local ecosystem in an aggressive manner, like autumn olive and garlic mustard. Autumn olive fruits can be eaten raw or cooked and made into jams or juices. The young leaves of garlic mustard can be cooked and used in soups, stews, or sauces. Garlic mustard leaves are also an excellent addition to pesto. Adding these species to our diets can make a world of difference for our local ecosystems if we develop routine harvesting and removal practices. Right now, corporations control the majority of our food systems. Their control creates huge profits for a disproportionately small number of people. Their control is why so many of our foods do not offer the same health benefits that our great-grandparents saw in their food systems. Their control is why we have so much food waste in the world, especially in the United States. Their control takes financial capital from communities like ours and gives back zero forms of capital. Placing food systems back into the hands of small communities offers us all 8 forms of capital. Most of the foods we eat on a daily basis, we do so out of convenience. So how do we make less familiar and all foods more convenient? By creating community gardens and food forests, supporting small farms and homesteads, and guerrilla planting wherever we can. We actually have a tremendous opportunity in our local ecosystems right now as the ash die back due to the invasive ash borer species. Huge swaths of canopy are opening up and inviting other layers of plants below the canopy to fill in the gaps. We can enhance the health of our forests and our bodies by planting native edible plants and simply throwing seed into those edible spaces, open spaces. There are many routes we can take to bring food and water sovereignty back into the hands of more people, and I think we should utilize every option. So to conclude, consider which natural resources you use on a daily basis that can be grown or discovered in your own backyard or a patio or windowsill. Whether that's food, medicine, fibers, aesthetics, building materials, etc. Choose at least 5 resources that you could cultivate for your home or to trade within your community. Remember to embrace trial and error. There is no shortage of educational resources out there, thanks to permaculture. So go discover those plant relationships that work for you and get practicing. When I speak of the future as my title presentation states, we decide what that timeline looks like. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you all the beauty and creativity in the world of permaculture and sustainable landscaping. And I hope to see you all at a local food forest or community garden very soon. Thank you.
You usually carry this around. It didn't record well last time, so someone asked a question. Can you just repeat it?
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Okay, so we'll just have you ask questions and she'll repeat it into the microphone.
So here, what do you feel is, I guess, what are the resources here?
What are some of the first resources that I would consider to be low-hanging fruit that I would like to go after here? Would be water. Absolutely, water catchment systems. Every part of the earth needs more water resources, both in the ground and on the surface. And I would also consider native edible plants to be very easy to harvest. We have, Sochan, Rudbeckia lacinata. You can find that at so many local nurseries. That is a great edible plant that we can start with as, an herbaceous vegetable, we'd call it. That is a great plant to start with as well, because it will grow so vigorously throughout a landscape, and you can find it in a lot of different places and wild spaces, and harvest the seeds for yourself. And there are also lots of native fruits, such as currants, and pawpaw, like I had mentioned, that are really great for very easy to find as well, and harvest and utilize for yourself, whether that's cuttings or seeds. Yes. Yeah.
You talk about food forest, and then you immediately think about, oh, if I make a garden, I need to have to depend it from over here and
Yeah.
farm it. And stuff
Yeah.
like that. That kind of idea, I guess, the food forest on there, like, a percent of your harvest goes toward the deer.
Yes, it does. Yeah. That's part of why good design. That's where good design comes into play. Fencing is important for small garden spaces, but when it comes to food forests, for example, right now I have in the works about a half-acre food forest going on, and I'm seeing a lot of deer pressure as well. We're probably going to have to put up a deer fence because there aren't a lot of alternatives except for hunting, which works. But we aren't big hunters at my house. So it's a matter of design and what works for you, whether that's hunting or fencing. Hunting can be, there are so many deer in our population. It kind of seems like hunting is a good solution right now to the pressure that we're seeing. Thankfully, we're seeing more bear and wild cats move into the area that can help us with that issue as well. But it is a matter of good design and what works for you. So it's very circumstantial. Yes. Oh yeah. That's why I didn't bring them up. A lot of people know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, pesto is a great example. Great way to preserve it. And in different, if you like the ice cube method, break them down, put them into ice cubes, preserve them for a later period of time. Food preservation is what it would ultimately be my answer to that. Yes. Rooftop and gutter catchment systems in rain barrels. That would be a great place to start. A rain barrel, you can actually upcycle them for free from a lot of like local businesses. You can order them from great companies who are looking to do like local ecosystem work as well. I could give you an example. I could share with you a website that I ordered mine from as well, because I wanted it to be aesthetically pleasing, matching my house. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I found like a terracotta rain barrel that matches my house perfectly, and I was very excited about that. So yeah, there are all sorts of ways to start with that, but I would definitely suggest rooftop and gutter catchment systems. Tremendous surface area to harvest from. Any other questions? Yes, Meagan. Oh, yes. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Taking as little out of the ground as possible is the most efficient method for water harvesting. We're, even in this area, we are seeing drought, which is kind of unbelievable. But it is a thing, and groundwater systems are lacking in our area. Not so much surface water, but yes, that's important too. Michaela? Yeah. Yeah. Each one of these, yeah. So clay pot irrigation, this is a super efficient way to water gardens. As the image states, you just fill pot in the ground and it slowly seeps out. Usually about 24 to 72 hours is the timeline for refill. And that is a great way to, like, have a busy day, just fill your pot of water before you leave for school or work for the day. And that will water your garden throughout the day. So one pot that's about a 12-inch circumference should be able to water about a 24 square foot space. Yeah, for about 24 to 72 hours. And hugelkultur, for example, that's a super efficient way for harvesting and catching water, storing water as well. It's a garden bed that's layered with all sorts of plant materials, usually high carbon materials first, like dry leaves and wood. And those sorts of systems will hold water more efficiently than just a standard garden bed that's lacking in topsoil, at least. And swales. So, I highly suggest checking out the Drylands agroecology research that's coming out of Longmont, Colorado. These folks are doing phenomenal case study work regarding water harvesting in very dry climates like in Colorado. Swales are a very easy way to harvest water and maintain water systems, and to collect plant materials in various types of environments. And yeah, that would be a great place to start as well. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Great question. So the idea is that with water catchment systems, using gray water, for example, to water a garden bed, then you're not extracting from groundwater systems. So then that is available for us to drink. That is consumptive fresh water. If you're utilizing other sources of water to water your garden beds, like IBC totes or rainwater barrels, then we have this other drinking water, like from our streams and from our groundwater, to drink instead of utilizing it for garden beds or farming. Yeah. HOAs. Yeah, I have. And one of my teachers, Peter Bain, who I mentioned on here, that is like the bane of his existence. HOAs. That's why I mentioned that permaculture is involved in sociology and politics as well, because a lot of what the work that we need to do is revitalizing our laws and our social structures so that we are not limited by those sorts of not really thoughtful methods of design for our lifestyles, especially as climate change is moving at a faster rate. And these are things that we need to be thinking about more frequently. Yeah, there are lots of laws that are restrictive. And actually, if you look into Crimpy, the school that I went to as well, Eagle County in Colorado is quite restrictive with the water use and water storage systems and beyond. And that's always going to, well, hopefully not always, but for the time being, those are restrictions that we have to deal with. Not so much in our local systems, but there are some restrictions that we have to deal with, and that's hopefully those can be conversations that we can have in the future that help us all learn better about our local ecosystems and our water systems and food systems. Yes. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yes. Not at the moment, but that's actually something that I have been considering very, very thoroughly within our local ecosystem. I would love to be that person to drop off, for everybody to come drop off their compost. I am happy to sort through all of that trash. There are restrictions, however. There are local laws that prohibit composting on a large scale, and those are things that we need to work through on a local level as well. It's technically not legal to go and drop off food waste at somebody else's residence right now. On a business scale, or a whatever type of scale you want to use besides individual. Yeah. State, local, both. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that is something that I would love to, and yeah, I would love to work on that in the future. I'm happy you brought that up. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, IBC totes are just big plastic totes. Yeah, they're just big. They usually hold like 2,000 gallons of water. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Thank you guys so much.